Good evening. I want to introduce myself. I'm Chaiky Rubin's husband. There was this whole world that the Rebbitzen had, and I was astounded during the days of our Shiva, and since then. It's been a hard day for us. We were at the felt, and it's the 30th. So I hope I don't cry, but bear with me. I have a whole booklet of things to say, but I won't, because I know it's too much. But I want to share the essence. I was married. Next week we would have celebrated our 55th wedding anniversary. And that, over half a century of time, I had the zchus to carry her bags through a miraculous life filled with turns and twists. But she was always there, always driving us to be further into what she knew was the truth. And during the Shiva, I realized that there was this whole world. Please accept that I don't mean anything disservice to anybody, but I lived in South Manchester, and the Rebbitzen would go off to the north every single day. And when she'd come back, I'd say, "What's new?" She said, "Nothing." And I thought, well, look, as long as you guys kept her busy, kept me out of trouble, and it was a very... She called you her girls, all ages included. In this world that she called for her girls, was a world flooded with goodness and chesed. I thank some of the girls, the ladies who came during the Shiva, and I know in North Manchester I have to watch myself. But, I wanted to thank you all, because I owe you a great debt of thanks. As much as she gave you, you gave her. You gave her the place to give of her love, of her passion, of her devotedness to Klal Yisrael and to other Jews. She was a passionate neshama. Her girls was the place where she could pour out that love, that goodness. You gave her the ability to create her own unique brand of goodness. In last week's Parsha, we read how 70 neshamas came in from Eretz Yisrael into Mitzrayim. And if you count the names, you'll find there's only 69. So Chazal tell us different answers, one of which is that Yocheved, the mother of Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron, she was born on the way. So she's not counted as leaving, but she arrived. Chazal will talk of other ideas that Kaviyuchel, the Eibishter, was the 70th. But Yocheved was living in the time of transition. And it was she who brought compassion and warmth to tend to the newborn in a slave state that was Mitzrayim. She gave strength to the seedlings of the further generations. And this grew into the nation of Yisrael. The Rebbitzen was also born as Klal Yisrael was going through a time of transition. She was a child of a Holocaust survivor. Her father had lost his whole family. She always felt she was trying to be two because he had lost one from before, so he wanted to make up for the children that he had lost. Her mother was a daughter of a great Rav from Vilna, who had come just before the Milchama. There was 25 years difference between the two of them. And Tzaddikim of Aaron Kotler was very close to them. The Baba Rav used to say, such a chesed, such a mess, that the world was in turmoil, and somehow he brought together two worlds such as yours. We were the builders of this generation that we were all sitting in. We came out of the cinders to create a new Klal Yisrael. Chaydische Yidden were building a new world, building up the broken hearts with love. Chaiky came into that world, and with a fountain of love and support to whoever came her way. She was just gifted in this thing. She, as a child, people gravitated to her. How we became Mechus in Kalas, she was 15 and a half when she became a Kala. We were 16 at the wedding, I was 19 at the wedding. And I often asked the Shadchan, how did you do that? I was a student in Bat Yam in Eretz Yisrael, Bava Yeshiva. Her father was living there. I asked him, how did you do that shidduch? He said, you spoke English, she spoke English. A beautiful shidduch. Things were simple in those days. Baruch Hashem, it seemed to have worked pretty well. She was like the Yocheved. She cared for the young, taught future mothers of Klal Yisrael, created Kiddush Hashem in a vacuum that was post-war Jewish life. You won't know about America, some of you may. Before the Sharas and Plato came to America, things were pretty difficult for Yiddishkeit. Now, just an aside, my shver was the Shoichet of Lakewood, very close to Rav Aaron Kotler's. Now the problem in Lakewood in those days was nobody had a car. The only one who owned a car was my shver, because he was a shoichet and he had to travel from one place to the other. There was only one disadvantage to this thing. He didn't know how to drive. My shviga knew how to drive. So she would drive Rav Aaron Kotler and my shver around. They would sit and learn, talk and learning. And if my shviga felt that something was amiss, that she didn't agree with something that was said, she'd turn around and say so. Because she was a Litvak, she could do that. And this was the place where my wife came from. Borough Park. Borough Park. I'll just share some of the building blocks of this wonderful woman. She was in her early 20s. She went to shul in Bobov. The Gaba of the Cheved Kedisha came marching into the women's section on Shabbos morning. Men would take her. He said, Yiddish Weiber, I don't have anyone who wants to be in the Cheved Kedisha. What do you want? Goyim should do the taharas? I need volunteers. Chaiky Rubin, why not? She and her sister-in-law joined the Cheved Kedisha. I didn't even know. I was sitting in the men's side. So what did you get yourself into? Have you ever seen a dead body? What can I do? Klal Yisrael needs somebody. I'll do it. And she did it. And the Irish wanted this, so when we lived in Tzvas, in Chatzor, which is near Tzfas, there were no women in the Chevra Kedisha. And a poor woman passed away, and my wife, who had been laying in bed for 2 weeks with hepatitis, came out of the sick bed, took 3 other women and taught them how to do it, and they made it to Harvard. And when she came to South Manchester, well, a couple of things had to be sorted out with that as well. But she knew how to do it. And she did it with panache and with class. This was the schus that she carried with her wherever she went. I'll tell you a story of one of our South Manchester women. That's the Degas Nebuchadnezzar. I won't say names because I see some friendly faces here. I don't want to. A very fine girl, a young girl. She got engaged to one of our boys. Chaiky was the color teacher par excellence. And the week before the wedding, so they come in, they sit down, and she says, the girl says, I've been by the doctors in the hospital. They found out that I have cancer. I have Hodgkin's, which is something at the time that was doable. But whatever. But we're going to get married anyway. We've talked it over. We ask you, Rebbitzen and Rabbi, just don't say anything to our parents, because we don't want to ruin the wedding for them. So Chaiky and I, of course, the chuppah was an interesting chuppah because the chassan was crying, the kallah was crying, the rabbi was crying, the Rebbitzen was crying, and everyone else was laughing and figuring out what's going on here. Never. It didn't take long. Things didn't work out. They tried all kinds of heroics. We were there constantly, but it wasn't good. One night I'm in Christie's with the family, with the young lady. She's very agitated. The doctors had said they can't understand why she's still here, because it was that bad. And she was thrashing about that. The Rebbitzen was in Whitefield Synagogue. She created a Tehillim club or something there. And she was saying Tehillim with these women. Huh? She calls me up, what's happening? I said, what's going on? It's horrendous, Chaiky. It's horrendous. She said, I know what to do. This woman had wanted to go to the mikveh one last time. But because of her illness, and they were frightened of any germs or anything, she just didn't get there. 20 minutes later, Chaiky comes walking in with 2 jugs of water. I said, what's this? This is water from the Whitefield mikveh. She told the girl, here, sweetheart, I'm going to toivel you. You'll have your mikveh. She caressed him with the waters from the mikveh. And with that, the girl died. This girl from Borough Park, with no dreams of becoming a main player in communal life, that was never her thing. Her father was a low-key person. Her mother knew about Rebbitzins and didn't want to know about being a Rebbitzin. She allowed the dreamer that she married at age 16 to move forward. She became the facilitator, the Rebbitzin that really mattered in the lives of every one of the communities that we lived in. Another story, just, again, we'll keep names. Sweet woman, she was ill at home. Chaiky and I go to visit. The woman is laying in the bed, shivering. She's having like one of these, she's chewing. Her husband was a bit of a sweet guy. He's standing there, he doesn't know what to do. Chaiky could be a commander. Anyone in Keep Fit will know you, right? She could get you to do what you wanted. So she says, go get some hot water bottle. I don't know where that is. She says, go next door. Meanwhile, Chaiky Rubin gets into the bed, cuddles this woman, holds her close, gives her a hug warm, till she fell asleep. That's what a Rebbitzen does. Teaching colors, such emotion, could be religious, not yet religious, didn't matter. Bat Chayil, you don't know, most of you. Bat Chayil is the bar mitzvah class for girls who turn 12 years of age. This is a year's work. And I have the book, I have a whole slew of papers with notes and things. She created a tefillah for the girls' mothers to say on the day of the bat mitzvah. And all the mothers would put their hands on their sweet daughters and pray with them out loud for the whole kehillah to listen, begging that they should be frum and marry the right kind of boy, all the things that we ask for. And she had such a bond with these kids. It's amazing. Collars. You had a money-back guarantee that you would get through that. She knew how to talk to the young girls and to the chasanim when there was a problem. And many times I just sit there and say, I'm not saying nothing. She'll do it. And she would come up, some shilas were asked, she would say something, and Dayonim of them gesucht. As Rebbitzen Rubin said so, that's the way it has to be. Because she knew this was her thing. And the practicalities and the Wahrheit von stellen weg a Yiddish Stieb. This is what she taught each. People would call her up and say, could you teach my daughter, she's engaged. They don't know what they were starting up with. That's like the firing pistol of a race. The Rebbitzen would get into the, where's my svulun? And half my bookshelf would be now in her bed. And all day, but you've done this hundreds of times. At least 150 chuppahs that we did in South Manchester. Doesn't matter, again. And she was never judgmental. Young couples could turn to her, and she took them on. She became their mentor. She realized that everyone in the world is a different human being with a different tikkun in his life. And she accepted everyone from where they were. And she never preached. Never preached. But by example, people edged closer. We came from America. We lived in Flatbush, Aish Kodesh. From there we lived in Chatzor Galilit, which is a bit of a mud village on top of, near Tzfat. We did this for 3-4 years, and then we came to South Manchester. They didn't know who we were, we didn't know who they were. It was a makeup to us from both sides. I don't know how it happened, but it's like what I said. You speak English, I speak English, it's Ashita. We came into this place, we didn't. The English are different. And in South Manchester, they are certain to tell you how different they are. The first Friday night we come to South Manchester, we were in Fallowfield. We were invited to eat by a particular person who was Shem Shabbos, fine, all right. come in, and this woman's father was a colonel at one time. He was in Palestine. No. So you get the idea what. Right. And she serves this food, and it was soup, and there's a spoon. Now, I was in Chatzor. You're lucky you didn't pick up the bowl and just drink it. But here we were being genteel, so there was a spoon. The Rebbitzen took it. So, and the woman gave us one of these condescending. You've taken the serving spoon. So I wanted to say, a Brooklyn lady, that isn't even, it's not a serving spoon. That's a baby spoon in Brooklyn. But I didn't say anything. And the Rebbitzen turned several shades of red, took it cool. The next day, she said, I heard there's a book called The Bretz, which is for those who don't know, it's a Shulchan Aruch on how to set your table and be a proper English person. So Chaiky bought the book, memorized everything in there, and the next time that lady came to my house, she had everything but a spoon, but that was her. So it was an interesting, but she gained their love with her style and her smile, and she was concerned with the little things of life, the things that showed that she really cared. Because every Jew has a neshama, and every Jew is unique and special. During the Shiva, even non-Jewish women came. People who she had from, I don't know, someone who done the nails, and there were floods of tears. One of these young ladies said, your wife saw me a week ago. And as soon as she saw me, she said, oh, you're expecting, congratulations. And I said to her, my mother-in-law doesn't know that. How do you know? She says, I work with 150 Jewish women. If I can't figure this out yet after all these years, right? That night, the Rebbitzen called up this woman and gave her a whole list of what she should eat and what she should use and supplements and this. So she said, I was being paid to do a job. She was a customer. She cared about me. Helping women have strong, healthy children was a goal of hers. You may not know this. This love and concern was born out of our own tragedy. She stood under the chuppah at the cusp of a new generation of Jews born out of the Holocaust. And she asked Hashem, please, Eibishter, grant me at least 10 children. She wanted to rebuild Klal Yisrael as much as she could. Hashem gave us a big Messiah. We were blessed with 2 children. The second one was born through heroic intervention by doctors. And then we lost the 3rd child. The child died not before Chaiky held him in our arms. And she grieved every day. She never got over it. And when I used to wonder, even when we were benched, blessed to have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, she was still, every time a new baby was born, there would be this edginess. If only I would have had, if only I would have had. But that was hard to have, give so many others from her love. There was nothing she wouldn't do for expectant mothers. There were health challenges that she overcame, including suffering 3 TIAs, which is a mini stroke. And by the way, this catastrophic hemorrhage that took her life, we've been told clearly had nothing to do with her health. In the parlance of the medical world, it was bad luck. But no matter how ill she was, when she would have a TIA, she'd be laid up for a couple of weeks. She always knew and went to her girls. She'd come home from her girls, and I can remember she had this enormous red pocketbook. You probably all have seen it, this big leather contraption. And she'd plop it down on the floor, sit down on the step to take off her boots, which meant I was meant to get her a tea with a biscuit. The biscuit was lunch, by the way. Woman never ate. And she would creak up the stairs, and she'd lay down for a couple of hours just resting. I said, "Can't you slow down?" She said, "No, I'm never going to slow down. We'd have discussions about this." And it was just, this was driving her. Every time a young girl called her up at night and said, "Oh, you did such a favor for me, my back doesn't hurt me anymore," and oh, and this, and they would tell her the secrets, and she would explain to them things. That was her life. And at the same time in South Manchester, she was sitting with Prince Charles. We were invited to the Queen's garden party. We sat with judges, high court judges, and every one of them looked up to her. They, "Wow, what's she wearing this week? How does she look? She brought such a class today with such sneers." You wouldn't believe that sneers. She was driven to make sure that everything had to be perfect, that they shouldn't say she's a frumpy person, she has class, but it was 100,000% sneer stick in every iota. Women loved talking to her. She would get on I remember we went on a plane from America to here or something like that. She comes up, she said, "I had such a headache." I said, "What's wrong?" Someone was sitting next to me. I'd never met the person before. She wasn't. But she had a lot of problems. And she didn't stop talking, and I tried to help her. 6.5 hours. Chaiky always said that people are too lonely in this world. We're living in a very lonely society. We have phones, we have groups, and we're lonely because we don't talk to each other. And Keep Fit for her was the place that she could talk to you and hear what you say, and listen to you. With Chaiky, you were never alone. And that was the important part of her avoidance. Because there's no reason. I've often talked to her, we spoke about this many times. Every person you ever meet is broken. If they weren't broken, they wouldn't be in this world. Because we are sent here to fix ourselves and thereby fix the world. So if you're not broken, you're wasting oxygen. There's other neshamas that are waiting online. She took everyone as they are with their broken kite. Be it in Frumkeit, be it in this, be it in that, whatever. Nothing surprised her. To tell you the story, she was once, I didn't know about this, someone told us about a shiva. And she fooled my daughter also. My daughter was a sheitel, does sheitels, and she took care of the Rebbitzen sheitels. Chaiky went to visit somebody. I don't think she was a religious woman. And she went in, I was the chaplain of Christie's at the time, so she had carte blanche to go visit people. She walks in, and there's this woman, a Jewish woman, not religious, and she's crying. I said, what's wrong? Look what they've done to me. What's wrong? All my hair's fallen out. And they've given me this cheap synthetic wig. I can't be seen with this. So Chaiky said, let me see. And she tried to fit it up. Taka was ashmata. And the poor woman was so to the bach. No problem. Chaiky took off her shekel, put it on her, fixed it over. She came home with the shmata on her head. I never saw it. My daughter didn't know about it. That's what you do. That's what you do. She illuminated our lives with charm and with tenaciousness. She was very strict about all the knowing that we represent Klal Yisrael, wherever we are. South Manchester, I made a walking group. I don't know if any of you guys joined it. We only went a couple of times, but it was like one of these things, like Dafi Yomi. We started and then everyone forgot about it. But we made a walking group, and we called it Rambling with the Rav. Now, South Manchester, we lived in a very leafy, gorgeous area. So my deal was we're going to go take a walk for an hour or so and sit down and have sandwiches that were made in the shul. And I would be talking and bonding. This is the kind of thing I tried to do. So these guys came to my house to pick me up. These are walkers, right? Stekalach and boots and hats and going to go walking. And I'm looking at them. Okay. So I start walking out the door, and the Rebbitzen says, where's your Ibbitz here? So I'm walking with the guys. She says, you're a Rav. So I walked with the long coat, because I was reminded that I'm a Rav. There is a line. We represent something. My grandson, who's sitting in Adass Aish Kodesh now, wrote us a vort. The Torah. Is it late? Anyone has to go home yet? Okay. He sent us a Torah. He sends me every week. The kid's such a sweetheart. Turn around, I don't want to embarrass you. And he wrote me a Dvar Torah that Bubi told him. It's about the Adass Aish Kodesh, our forefathers, that each of them had their own midah. The midah of Abraham was chesed, compassion. But he had Yishmael. What do you do with that? And all of us had these. I used to say, if you want to know what dysfunctional families look like, take a look in the Torah, our of us. Everyone had trouble. And it's there for a purpose to teach us that you're going to have trouble. Trust me, you don't know what service is till you have a nasa for a child or something like that. But through the Torah, and I don't want to bore you with all the intricacies that he wrote, he says that Bubi told me, all this teaches us that every one of us has their own avodah, our own job, our own tikkun in this world. And therefore God gives us different talents. Some of us are musical, some of us are clever in one way, another way. We are not coming from a cookie sheet. We are different, we are individuals. And we'll only be able to create that which we must create to fix this world if we're allowed to use the gifts that we've been given. And he writes that Bubi recognized that each and every person that came her way had their own unique talents and strengths. No matter how they dressed, or what color yarmulke the boy may wear. She loved everybody, cared about everybody, encouraged people to use the situation which Hashem put them in and use their talents for God and to use them to the best. But he told me this Torah, to encourage me and to give me chizik, strength. But she lived this vort as well. And the Sefer Divrei Yomim, Hayomim, tells us our days are as a shadow upon earth. Medrash tells us our life is like a shadow of a bird in flight. Moshe says, how is it that our days are likened to a fleeting shadow of a bird flying? A bird that doesn't remain for even a moment. So he explained that understanding of this is that if you ask somebody, how long do you think you're going to live in this world? So the person is going to go and say, I'm 50 years old, average lifespan is 70, 80, I figure I'm good for another 50 years or whatever it is. He says, if you ask me how long I have in this world, I'll tell you 1 second. Because what happened, that's the bird. Done. Ma'adahan, it's gone. What's tomorrow? How do I know there'll be a tomorrow? What do I have? I have this moment, this second. Chaiky was talking on the phone to her grandson. It was a Sunday afternoon. She was going to do a keep fit with her girls, Sunday class. Any of you here? All right. That was a Sunday evening. I was going to give a shiur. She's on the phone talking to my grandson in America, and he's telling her, we made a su'udah amongst the cousins in honor of my father-in-law's yortzeit, which was that week. And we had whiskey, of course, and herring. Shvez Chaluch loved herring. That was his thing. Chaiky was so happy to hear that. I'm coming to the room and I overhear this end of the discussion. She says, I have to go now. My girls are waiting for me. My car, who takes me to the cheers outside, he's getting punchy also. He knows I have to get there. It was, have to be at 6:30. It was 6ish. She hands me the phone. Starts to say something about having to go to class. And then the bird of her neshama took flight. And she fell onto the bed. You know, some time ago, she mentioned that in 120 years, she wants to be buried in Manchester. And I said, why not near your father in Tzfaz? That was always the discussion. She said, no, I want people who I've touched in life to be able to visit me, so I'll stay in Manchester. We want this special neshama's work to go on. I'd like to create a group. Perhaps we could call it Chaiky's Chabura, I don't know. That will undertake to phone people, to visit people, to keep in touch with each other. There's so many broken souls in our community. So many good, sweet people who you'll meet in the grocery. who just needs someone to say hi. Do you want to have a coffee? Do you mind if I call you? Do that chesed. In Chaiky's memory. Sorry. Amongst the Jews that came to Mitzrayim, there was a Yiddish mama. Her name was Serach Basilsha. Her claim to fame was when they needed to break the news to Yaakov Avinu that Yosef is still alive. The boys, they're sitting and thinking, how are we going to tell him? He'll have a heart attack. He's been depressed almost for all these years. Now we're going to tell him plitzlik. Serach played the guitar. She played the lute or whatever it's called. So they sent her in and she played a song. She sang in the song, Yosef is alive, ha 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 ha. And he's sitting and he's the viceroy of Mitzrayim. And with that, her grandfather, Yaakov, started to come to, oh wow, Yosef's alive. Her chesed was that she brought wholeness to a broken-hearted Yaakov. Her song was a song of healing. And she lived Yeshomim for centuries. She's one of the few neshamas that never died. She went straight to Shemayim for a song, for a gentle. Let me end with a song. We had a Yid in South Manchester in Fallowfield who was the president of the medical council. He was the president of the shul also. Dignified man, tall man, special man. And he has a son in Eretz Yisrael who's very frum. He went for a Shabbos to Eretz Yisrael. He came back and said, you know, Rabbi, in Eretz Yisrael I learned a beautiful song. And maybe we could sing it here in the shul every Friday night before Kabbalah's Shabbos. I'm thinking to myself, what's this going to be? Tikva, what's he coming up with here? So I said, let me hear the song. He says, Yedi nefesh of Rachaman. I said, wow, that's a gorgeous song. You see, the secret is that Chassidim say Yedi nefesh. But in South Manchester, it's not in the Siddur. It's Ashkenazim don't say it. So here's a guy selling me to sing Yedi nefesh. It's a win-win for me, right? So I said, we have a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, it's not in the Siddur. We were using singer Siddurs then. It's not in the Siddur. So he said, okay. He went out, they made special a huge plaque with the entirety of the song written on it, and they attached it to the wall of the other side of the shul. So every Friday night, everyone would stare at the side and sing Yedi, Yednei, Yefesh. Beautiful. Time goes by. They eat. He was in Marks and Spencer's. All of a sudden, he fainted. One thing led to the other. He had a major cancer in the brain. Again, these things, in those days especially, there was no chemotherapy. It took him several months. Being a doctor, he said, I'm not going to die in the hospital. You take me home. So he set up a hospital room in his front room. I come in one night, and I can see it's, unfortunately, my son and I were saying, we've been around in this job a long time, and we get to see a lot of people who are about to depart from this departure lounge. And we could tell. And I could see this fellow wasn't going to, but he was again very agitated. Just then Chaiky walks in. Chaiky walks in. Chaiky walks in, and she takes one look at the situation. She goes over to the head of the bed where the seed is. I could see his eyes were so above. She bends over and starts singing Yedid Nefesh. Yedid Nefesh. Oh, come on. Hat sich so gestillt. A few weeks ago, we're sitting around the bed of my wife's. Her brain had gone, but her body was fighting. And we did what we do, just the children. We started singing, humming all the songs that she loved. She was always singing on a niggin, singing on a niggin, sing a song. We're singing all of her father's niggin, and father was monogamous. And the final, we sing, you know, Yedid Nefesh. Oh, come on. Moshe looks at me, I look at him. Yeah, you can see. With that, she gave a final kiss of breath. Yedid Nefesh. May I be presumptuous, ladies, Chaiky's girls, everyone. Let's remember and offer all those broken souls that emotional kiss of hope. In Dameshus, we should bring an aliyah for the neshama of this great lady, someone who we never knew how great she was. She carried it so well. And the Dame's Chusam and all of the whole from there. And share only in Nachas in the future. Thank you.